Perfect. Um, so I want to introduce our speaker to you, and it is our very own Christy Hurd, Regional Vice President, who will be located in New York for the next 30 days, and then we'll be in outside of Grand Rapids. So I can't wait for her to get into her new home and then to be able to go up and visit her and her family up there. And so Christy has had a busy month. She's had a busy 10 months living separate from her husband. And I just am excited to hear her because I've watched her have plenty of different struggles and obstacles and balancing being a wife and a mom and a dad, filling in that dad position while Mark has been out of state, and blowing off her driveway when it's been loaded with snow, because she is the one who is there to do it, and all still working her business. And so what she has to say, you guys will want to listen to tonight and take note of, and because she's going to be training from personal experience tonight. And so, Christy, I'm going to mute me. And you're unmuted? Okay.
I'm unmuted.
All right, then I'll turn it over to you, Christy.
Okay, can you hear me? And during the training, if you can't, you're going to have to text me. So you guys, this is so funny. I will get to training, but I have to explain what's happened. So I'm sitting up in the hallway next door because I'm in Michigan and my son does not have internet service, and Mark wanted internet, so he's paying the guy who lives upstairs to put a booster here in the hallway. But inside the apartment, we don't have internet very well. So I planned to just call in on my phone and talk to you guys. For some reason, it would not connect on my phone. So here I am with my glasses that are taped because they're the only glasses I have with me, and my messy hair up in a bun, and wasn't expecting to be seen. So enough about me. And I'm not sure if you guys... I love to be able to train when I can see your faces because it's so much easier. Back in the day when we always talked on telephone, it was like in a blank room and you never knew if you were getting through to anybody. But I actually have up my notes here, so I think that you can still see me, but I can't see you, but that's okay. What I want to talk about tonight is just how you can be all in with our bond. And kind of funny, we're here in Michigan, and you guys got to know that in New York State, we live upstate New York. Traffic in the area that we live in amounts to horses and buggies and farm tractors, wagons. There usually aren't lines on the roads that we drive on because they're just backcountry roads. So we come here to Michigan, and he built the highway, not just like the throughway, but all of the highways going around the city and through the city. 70 miles an hour is the speed limit, and they're raising it to 75. Okay, so when you decide that you're going to get on one of these highways, there is no thinking about it. You are all in. And it is pretty crazy. And I can't tell you how thankful I am to drive a Mercedes because I know when I press on the gas pedal, I have power. So my husband drives a Prius, which I think is just hysterical. It's a great car, great on gas mileage, but it takes a while to get up to speed. I'm just saying when you're driving a Prius. So you know me, I like analogies. And I was doing this training and thinking about being all in. I was thinking, man alive, you've got to be all in when you get on these roads in Michigan. And my husband hates what he calls toe tappers, people who are never use their cruise, and they're speeding up and slowing down and speeding up and slowing down. And you can't be doing that on these roads. So basically what I'd like to submit to you guys is that there are a lot of pivot points in life. Lots of times when we come to a critical decision in our life, sometimes we are forced into a critical pivot point, kind of like when Mark lost his job and we're forced into, and we have to decide. And it's what we think as we're coming up to that pivot point in our life. It's our thought process that's either going to push us on towards success or push us back towards a life of average. So I wanted to talk about the pivot point tonight. And if you picture like a needle on a gauge, there's a point at which the needle is straight up in the air, and 1 degree nudge is going to either make it fall ahead or make it go backwards. And that's what I'm talking about when I talk about the pivot point. So on the left side of that pivot point, you guys can picture that's where average lives. People living average lives. And let me just stop right here and say, I am going to be stepping on a lot of toes tonight, and I know this for sure because when we train about the things that we're going through in the real life process that we're going through, and my toes were stepped on and have been stepped on as I was thinking through this, and this comes from personal journey. So if I'm stepping on your toes, no, it's only because these are the things that I've been going through. So the left side of the pivot point, before you get to straight up, is where average lives. And I want you to think about yourself, because the group of people that is on the left side of the pivot point is the group of people that is constantly questioning and asking questions like, should I do this? I'm not sure if it's the right thing. I'm not sure if it's going to work for me. I need to think about it some more. Let me just write a list and write all the pros and cons down. Maybe it's not for me. I just need to think some more about it. So that's one side of the pivot point, the average side. And on the right side of the pivot point, really where extraordinary lives. And I know that if we were to think about it and think, do you want to live an average life or do you want to live an extraordinary life? Obviously, we're all going to say, well, yeah, I want to live an extraordinary life. The extraordinary side is the side where you find yourself saying, I will. Instead of should I, it is I will. I am in. I'm going to figure it out. I have no choice in the matter. Let's go. Let's get it done. It is that kind of thought process, and that is where the magic happens. So what I want you to understand is that we expend way, way more energy on the should I of pivot point than the I will side. The constant questioning, so picture the toe tapping of the car, constantly expending energy, trying to get up to speed, falling back, trying to get up, falling back, constant questioning, not completely deciding, starting and stopping. That takes an extreme amount of emotional energy. And emotional energy is what is really draining. And I'm going to come back and talk about that emotional energy in a minute. So think back over your life. Think back over your tendencies. And obviously we're talking about Arbonne, but Arbonne translates to life. So think about other things in life. Are you somebody who is characterized as being the thinker? Are you constantly questioning, should I? What you're toe tapping your way through life. The tendency to question, it causes us to naturally gravitate away from making the commitment that's right in front of us. We always try to do what keeps us safe, and backing away from commitment might keep you safe in the short term, but what it does is it keeps you from ever achieving anything great in the long term. And what's more is you probably feel really exhausted and like you have worked really hard when in fact you've only expended emotional energy. So emotional energy, it's our human tendency to make decisions based on the biggest force in our life. And in the short term, it's our emotions, our feelings, our impulses. They almost always outweigh any logical considerations. So basically, we'll do whatever we can to protect ourselves from expenditure of emotional energy. We think ourselves right out of things. Let me page down here. I should have written this earlier in my notes. Sometimes it can be really a sheer measure of just overcoming your own laziness and moving yourself to action. So the funny thing is, it takes so much less energy to act than it does to think about acting. Emotional energy literally negatively impacts how our body functions. It impacts our adrenal glands. It impacts our sleep. It impacts everything, okay? I know this for sure and for certain, as the Amish in upstate New York say, as we have gone on an extreme emotional roller coaster for the past 10 months. It impacts everything. It impacts your weight gain, your weight loss, your sleep, your thought process, getting out of bed in the morning. So thinking about it impacts those things. But here's the other thing. Taking action literally, positively impacts not just our minds and our thoughts, but everything about our body. It makes us think clearer, makes us sleep clearer. It puts our minds to rest when we stop playing the questioning game and we actually begin doing something. So I thought that was very interesting. So, okay, so we talk about doing and then feeling. I was thinking of a couple illustrations here. And the book I was reading was talking about a man who, okay, stay with me here, folks. A man who was using a urinal and he dropped a $5 bill in. And instead of reaching in and grabbing it, he dropped a $50 bill in so that he was more inclined to stand and grab it. And I thought, that's an interesting picture. And then I thought, you know what? Have you guys ever dropped something in a toilet? Something really important? So I have. And 2 different times, as a matter of fact. One time I was changing the toilet paper roll because, hello, I'm a mom, and moms do that. And it was at my parents' house, and that metal toilet paper roll sprung out of my hand so fast and dropped right in the toilet. I was like, oh my goodness. I did not think. I reached my hand and pulled it out. Okay. The other time we were at GTC I was using the bathroom there at the Grand whatever hotel that we stay in anyway. And the little pins that they give you that are magnetic, well, sometimes that magnet comes off and it dropped right in the toilet. And yes, before I even thought, I rescued it. So what I'm trying to illustrate is if you think about it too much, you probably wouldn't do it, or you might decide it's not too important. But if it's something really important, we often just go ahead and do it without even thinking about it. Do and then feel. Emily Martin, she coined that phrase, I think, in Arbonne, and it is perfect for our business. You have to be able to do and feel. So if you are a should-I person, if you're a person who spends all your time thinking it through and never actually starting, how do you change that? Okay, I'm going on the premise here that you want to change. You want to do Arbonne. You want to start making decisions. You want to get off your butt. Okay, really, it's pretty simple. You say you're all in, and then you start acting instead of asking the should I. You change your question to yourself and you ask, how will I? And immediately your mind is going to start going through the process and figuring out how you're going to solve this problem. The issue is the longer you sit there at that pivot point in your life asking if you should, the further away you actually slip from the pivot point, and the chance that you will ever succeed actually gets farther away. We have heard a lot, probably in the last couple months in Arbonne, about the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 method. And I'd heard people train on that, and I didn't realize it was actually a real thing. If you go to Facebook, not right now, but if you go to Facebook when we're done, and look for the page, the 5-second rule. So 5-second rule by Mel Robbins. She has videos on there. She talks about a time when she was in deep depression, and she actually had the TV on or something and saw a rocket launch, and saw them counting down, and thought, that's the key. I'm going to give myself 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and then I'm going to be up and I'm going to do it. And that is a fantastic method, I'm telling you, to get things done. So that is something that you can use. Sometimes things happen in our life, you guys, and we're all in without even having to think it through, like us in the past year. But sometimes you have to make an unacceptable criteria to help you get past the should I habit. So what I mean by that, Eric Worre, actually, I was listening to a podcast or something. I'm sure you could find it on his website. He has a video where he talks about making people do things that will be extremely embarrassing or very hurtful in a monetary way if they don't succeed and do what they say they're going to do. So making a deadline, and instead of just making a goal and a deadline, make a really unacceptable consequence. So that is something that you can do. If you're a should-I person, you're trying to get off your butt and move forward. But I would caution you, be careful with that, because if you really are a person who tends to think things through, and you know what, guys, we need people who think things through. We do. So don't think that I'm just dissing you if you are that thoughtful person. But I know that thoughtful people sometimes have a hard time moving. So be careful with the negative consequence, because even the process of thinking through what should my negative consequences be can put you back into that cycle instead of pushing you forward. So last thing I just wanted to say is, don't get sucked into this myth of balance. I have to lead a balanced life. Oh my goodness. If I start Arbonne, my life is going to be so unbalanced. Okay. You know what, you guys, life is never in balance. Okay. So get over it. It's not. It doesn't matter if you do Arbonne or if you're a stay-at-home mom eating bonbons. Oh, I don't know any stay-at-home mom who really does that. Life is never in balance. It's a constant give and take, constant up and down, moving things from here to there. And while you're building your business, you're going to be heavy on the Arbonne side. You're going to be unbalanced. There's no doubt about that. But when you reach a goal, you're going to be heavy on the celebration side too. Let me see how else can I explain that. So for a time, you're going to be working in an unbalanced way. But there's going to come a time that when other people are still living crazy, out of control lives, while somebody else tells them what to unbalance their life with, you are going to be in a place where you're deciding what you're unbalancing your life with. You're going to be able to choose whether you're going to go on a cruise with your family at the drop of a hat for 2 weeks, okay? You're going to be able to choose. You have to live unbalanced. That is how life is. So don't get sucked into that myth. When we do these trainings, or when I do, and I'm sure Legina is the same way, and anybody else that trains, who just wish that we could reach through the computer and show you guys what you really have ahead of you, what Arbonne can be in your life if you just work. And so many times it is totally just a choice of deciding that you will. Stop saying, yeah, I should pick up the phone. I wish I could pick parts. Okay, just do it. Do it. You have all the verbiage in the world. We've given it to you multiple times. Anybody can book parties. If you've booked one, you can book another one. We give you tools and all kinds of things, and we do that because we just want you to see what this business can be. So think it through. I can't see interviews, so maybe you all left me. But if you're living in that in that person who comes to situations constantly in life and backs away from actually doing them, then it's something you need to work on. Changing your words, saying I will, and letting your mind immediately start thinking of how to change that. So I'm hopefully going to come back to Zoom here. You're all still there. Wonderful. Well, Gina, I'm going to mute.
Christy, I love all of those analogies, and it is so right. You spend so much more time thinking about what you should do than actually doing it. And we did some training at the retreat that we were with Beth Gallardi, and I did mine on entrepreneurship. And let me just say, when Dennis was going through medical school and his residency, his life was completely 100% unbalanced. He was never home, and I do mean rarely at home. And today he's got choices. But here's the beautiful thing. It took Dennis, 6 years of undergrad, because we kind of stretched it out and got married in the middle of it, and then 4 years of medical school, 4 years of residency. Then he started a practice where he was the low man on the totem pole, got all the calls, and it cost him, it was over $100,000 in indebtedness that we incurred in order for him to do that, plus all of those years. I spent 2 years of being kind of unbalanced. I still was taught Sunday school, still was PTO president, still had my 4 kids, took them all the places that my kids needed to go, but my life was full. And in 2 years was right at the similar pay scale that my husband spent $100,000 and 12 years of his life to be at. And so when you look at that and you go, really, what's the investment? And the other day I came home and I suggested that we go and do an Alaskan cruise, because it's someplace I've always wanted to go, and I wanted to do it at the end of September so we could possibly see the northern lights. And so we got online, booked an Alaskan cruise, and 6 weeks later, that's where we're going to be. Is it, like Dave Ramsey says, live like no one else, so you can live and give like no one else? And so I just encourage you, Christy, that was just an incredible training. And we are going to get the recording out, and you guys can listen to it again because it was spot on. Just do it. Don't think about it. Just put the pedal to the ground, because it's a lot easier, and the rewards are there faster when you just put the pedal to the metal and go for it. So I'm going to end our recording tonight. And if you haven't, stop recording.